Hey guys, welcome back to what we at Redemption Church call Faith in Action, an online series where we explore vocational ministry in the 21st century. As you can see, we have two brand new guests, our lovely missionaries to the Canary Islands just off the coast of Western Sahara and Morocco, Greg and Nikita Lewen. Great to see you guys again.
Good to be here.
Great
So
to be
happy
here.
to see you guys. We wanted to do this episode for a while, and they're dear friends of Pastor Matt, going back many years to Calvary Assembly back in the day. And I'm sure they've been here as our missionaries longer than I've been here. And I'm going on 5 years, so that's great. I have a great relationship with them. So tell us a little bit. How long have you been in ministry leading up to now?
So for me, I was thinking about this. I think it goes back to about 2006, 2007 when I moved from Indiana to Florida to work with a youth pastor friend, a mentor of mine at the time at Calvary Assembly.
Oh, sweet. Nikita?
And so for me, I grew up in Dade City, Florida, and so I've been in the Assembly of God Church my whole life. And so literally growing up, I would try and involve myself in every aspect of ministry that I could. And so was I getting paid? No, but I was volunteering quite a bit. Actual positions, when we were in youth ministry, I began helping out with the worship team and then became worship leader in that time. And so official ministry position would have been the worship leader at like 17, 18.
Wow.
So yeah.
How did you guys meet? Was it at Calvary? And then after that, when did you decide to serve together as a married couple?
So I did grow up in the Assembly of God Church in Dade City. And for the longest time being involved in youth ministry. Our youth pastor at the time was retiring. He had taken a job to go somewhere else. And then they had put in applications, and we had received an approval for a youth pastor coming from the great state of Indiana.
All right.
No, Greg was not the youth pastor, but
That was the added bonus.
he was the added bonus. So this youth pastor came, clicked really well with the youth group, but this youth pastor was also a major mentor, someone who had spoken into Greg's life. And so in that time of Greg's life, I'm sure.
Yeah, I had recently come to faith, and so I moved down a month after they moved down to Dade City. I moved down.
Wow.
Quit my job. I moved down to my parents' home, and everything I owned, which was not much, fit inside my car or Jeep at the time, and moved down. So we ended up meeting there in the youth group unofficially because we were not. There was no dating allowed in the youth group.
Oh, wow.
So girls and guys, we didn't separate, like the girls didn't go on one side of the sanctuary, the guys on the other. But it was definitely very specific on girls hang out with girls, guys hang out with guys. So I wouldn't even consider us, we weren't really even friends.
Yeah, no, we didn't.
We knew of each other, obviously, because we worked together. But I wouldn't have said we were best friends.
Not even acquaintances.
Man. Well, look at you guys now.
I know,
right?
Married?
It's a wild ride.
How long have you been doing ministry together?
Since we got married, 2008.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, so 15-ish plus?
Yeah, it'll be 16 years in October.
Wow, okay, so we're right on the precipice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, next month,
Congratulations.
yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. And then coming from more of a youth ministry background and maybe youth ministry and worship together, how did you decide to do missions together? Tell me a little bit about that.
So that's a great question. Again, being raised in an Assembly of God church, the beauty of the church specifically that I was in was that they had a program called Missionaries, and it teaches young girls how to live the Christian lifestyle. It was a discipleship program for young girls. And in that discipleship program, they emphasized missions. And I can remember being in one of the classes at 12 years old, and God just gripping my heart, saying, you know what? Sharing the gospel is one thing. You're going to share gospels to the nations. And I was like, Jesus, what does that even mean? And there was just not radio silence, but there wasn't much after that. So all I knew is this promise that God had placed in my heart at 12 years old. And then I just held on to it and said, okay, whatever I can learn in ministry, whatever I can do to be able to spread the gospel effectively in another area outside of the area that I'm in, I'm going to learn it. I'm going to be there. I'm going to get my hands dirty and try and learn everything I can. And so our stories are definitely a little bit different in that aspect.
Oh, cool. Greg, tell us.
Yeah, so I didn't really come to faith until I was about 20 years of age. I mean, I grew up in church, went to a certain denomination, and so I went to private school that was part of that same denomination. Went to service every Sunday, every Thursday with class, and so I knew a lot of Bible stories, but none of it was personal to me until 20. Really when I had an encounter with Jesus, and a year later I moved from Indiana to Florida and happened into an Assembly of God church, and it was there is really when I met my first missionary ever. And just hearing their stories and hearing about what God was doing around the world, there was just something the Holy Spirit began to speak to my heart about being a part of it, participating in what He's wanting to do in other places, but not knowing anything, nothing whatsoever. And that would have been about 2006, right after I moved down.
Wow.
And so, I went to our pastor at the time, and kind of told him, what was kind of in my heart. And actually, Matt was there as well. Matt was like, "You need to get on a short-term missions trip." I was like, "I don't even know what that is."
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's cool.
And so, a few months later, I found myself in Honduras.
Wow.
Outside the United States for the very first time.
Man.
And it was simultaneously like an adrenaline rush of like, this is wild and crazy, and also slightly terrifying.
I'm sure.
It's the just shock of it all. And so 2006 I would have gone on my 2007 I would have gone on my first missions trip.
Wow. Well, with your feet getting wet with missions trips in foreign countries and stuff like that, it seems like, so you're talking about this all transpired in 2006, and then you were married in 2008? Wow, okay, so 2 years after that. And then now they have 3 beautiful children. One just entered the world. So give us grace if you hear any squeals or toys banging in the background. They're here with us today, and they're lovely. Liam is their youngest. And so with that, you've been in the Canary Islands for how long?
Since 2013, January 11th, 2013.
Wow, over 10 years?
We landed for the first time, yeah.
That's incredible. Tell us, so you've gone to Honduras, and where's some places? Have you done some short-term mission trips?
So as soon as we had started actually dating in 2008, and then 5 months later we were married. And it was only then that my parents love me. They're very, they love all of their kids, all their eggs in one basket. They like their kids close.
Yeah.
And so when I told, my mom and dad, I want to go on a missions trip, they're like, no, you're not going outside of the country. You're staying right here where, we can keep an eye, not on me, but just protect me. Like, they're very protective. But once we got married, we were actually both invited to go to Jamaica.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so we were able to go to Jamaica. There was an orphanage that we were able to do like a VBS and kind of touch up paint on the building, give it kind of a fresh look for all the kids, get them excited about just a new room and, like flowers painted on the wall, something like that. And it was just so incredible to be able to experience something outside of the culture. I grew up in Dade City. I never left this, small town,
community,
right? And I love the small community feel, but also once you've stepped outside of that, it opens your eyes to just the rest of the world and how different people live and different perspectives and their, view on different things. And it just helps you to have just a greater, not just respect for the people outside of your own culture and community, but also just a greater love for Jesus and that He truly loves all of us in a greater way. And we're all so very different. And so in that aspect, I loved it. I thought it was incredible. And it was definitely life-changing for sure.
Well, with that, you find yourself in the Canary Islands, of all places, which that's not like, oh, I'm going to, I don't know, Nigeria or somewhere recognizable. The Canary Islands is that small community you've been talking about. And so how did you find yourselves there? Was it through your church?
The long story short of it is, we, after several years we were both involved in youth ministry, and we'd gone on several short-term trips. And both of us in our hearts started sensing this, we're entering in a season of transition, not knowing really what that next step was, but definitely feeling that in this next season it's going to be more than short-term trip. It's going to be something long-term. And again, by God's grace, our pastor at the time, he started putting us in contact with missionaries in the area. His philosophy was always, if you want to be a plumber, go talk to a plumber, find out what you need to do. And so through a series of conversations, he put us in contact with the missionary traveling at the time, itinerating at the time. And we sat down with her, and she kind of gave us the rundown of a few options we had within the Assembly of God missions organization. And we went home that night, prayed about it, felt good about it, and filled out the application to go to Austria.
Austria.
And so we filled out everything to go to Austria, got all the approvals. We went to School of Missions, started traveling, telling people we're going to Austria. And 8 months later, that family retired from missions.
Oh, wow.
And moved back to the United States, and they pastor in Fort Lauderdale now.
Wow.
And so
This is wild.
new missionaries came to Austria to continue the work that the other missionaries were doing, and they had sent an email one day, said, "Hey, we need to talk," and he kind of had that pit in your stomach of,
Oh, this is a breakup letter.
yes, that's a break. It had all the the textbook qualities of a breakup letter, and they asked, they just said, there's a lot of stuff they were still adjusting to, and they would recommend we go somewhere else.
Okay.
I said, I don't know where else to go. I mean, it's never been about a place. It's been about following God's open doors. And so the door opened to Austria, and that's what we said yes to. But, God, if you're leading somewhere else, we'll go. And so he's the one that said, they had just planted a church in the Canary Islands and left it in the hands of another new missionary. He said, hey, contact them, see if they'd be interested. We didn't tell a soul.
No.
We didn't tell our pastor. We didn't tell our parents.
I mean,
not
we'd
a person.
been working a year to get
Almost
to
a
this
year.
point.
Yeah.
I'm sure it
And
was
then
scary.
all of a sudden, this news comes out, and it's just like, oh, okay, Jesus, like,
I mean,
we're just gonna keep
we
our mouth
doing?
shut, keep our head down, and just figure out what's going on before.
nobody wants to come out and say, well, just kidding, we're going here instead. After you've been telling people you feel God leading you in a certain direction, because it makes you seem untrustworthy.
Shady.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we took a week. We didn't tell a soul. Not really out of fear, but God, if you're in this, we need your voice first on this one. I believe full-heartedly and completely in advice and counsel from wise people and people that love you and trust, that you can trust. At the same time, there's certain moments where it's just, I need God's voice first, and then from there, wise counsel to help me discern it and such. But in that week, God in His graciousness met us. We took a week and we fasted and we prayed and we said, God, we need your voice. We need to know. We're willing to face the music
Yeah.
if we know you're the one altering our trajectory.
Yeah.
And He confirmed it through friends of ours, not even connected to the situation. That was just one of those divine moments that they knew nothing. I mean, nothing of anything going on. And suddenly in conversation, they start talking about the Canary Islands and the importance of ministry there, and how it was, just what was in their hearts about the islands. And I thought, what are the odds?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they were missionaries going somewhere else.
They were going
so
to
they
Ireland.
weren't going to the Canary Islands.
Wow.
But they had told us about this, burden for the gospel in the Canaries. It's like,
So by the end of that week,
okay.
we had emailed the missionaries in the Canary Islands, said, hey, would you even be interested in help? And it wasn't even 24 hours he responded. He said, absolutely.
Wow. What an incredible
And so that was
testimony.
2011, end of 2011, beginning of 2012.
Oh, that's when we Googled
That's
where
when
the
we
Canary
Googled
Where is
Islands
Canary
were.
Islands?
to figure out where they were.
Right.
And then, a year later, we landed January 11th, 2013.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.